Hey, I'm back to getting organized for your project. So, how do I organize my time? You know your time is limited, but with that limited time, you also want that your work to be as good as possible. It means that you don't want to rush finishing up, or and you don't want to wear yourself out. You don't want to make yourself tired, get sick of doing that project. So, with that in mind, you need to manage your time well. You need to know when to stop because you have other things to do other than the project. Okay. With that point, I would like to suggest that planning is important. Okay. So planning allows you to see what needs to be done, in what order, and for how long. This may sound very theoretical, but it should work. Yeah, it really works. So even though you don't get used to do planning, just keep this in mind because it will help you a lot in the long run. So the book suggests that you work backward from the deadline. So put the latest deadline at the top and the immediate deadline at the very bottom. Okay. In that way, you know when is the final deadline that you have, and what are the points that you need to do before the final deadlines. Okay, and when you need to finish that up. The next technique to organize your time in relation to the tasks that you are doing is the Pomodoro technique. I find this technique very useful and also fun to do, but not at the beginning. So the Pomodoro technique runs like this. Step one, you need to choose one of the tasks that you have. Focus just on one task. Then you need to set up a timer for 25 minutes, either using the online Pomodoro technique webpage. There is online timer, or you can use your phone. Set it for 25 minutes, and you need to focus working on just one task until the timer beeps. Okay, just focus on one task for 25 minutes. No looking at your phone, just focus on your task. And then after the timer beeps, you need to take a short break, 3 or 5 minutes, get a coffee, get a tea, stretching up, then go back to do your task for the next 25 minutes for 4 cycles. And after that, you take a long break after 4 sessions, 1 hour, whatever it suits you. The point here is that you need to try to focus on doing one task within certain amount of time, 25 minutes, for 4 cycles. It's hard at the beginning, and at some point, for instance, when you write, words may not coming out, but you need to force yourself for that, and in the long run, you will get used to it. Next, making plan. What should we plan? Plan for the notes and also the tasks that you have done. So for the notes, you need to write points and ideas that you intend to cover. Yeah. Write a list of chapter and section headings, and then identify what will go in each section and chapter. We will see this kind of section and list of chapter next. The point here is that whenever you have ideas, points that come up to your mind, write that down, and you need to make that note in the appropriate section. If you come up with the idea about methodology, write down the notes or idea about methodology in the methodology section. If you know about anything related to background of your study, research question, write that down in the appropriate section. Why writing down? Because you will not remember this idea again the next day. Trust me, I experienced that. And at some point, you can come up with a, let's say, brilliant idea according to yourself in a place where you're not prepared. Okay, so in that way, you can write it in your phone, or if you bring a pen, write it down in a note. Okay, the point here is that this idea need to be safe or need to be made concrete in one way or another, so that you can go back to it, and it will cost you a lot if you forget. How would you structure your work in relation to the notes that I've mentioned before? So these are the main components of scientific writing, either article or a thesis, but they are not the document format. Okay, think about this as components of what you need to cover in your research and also academic writing later on. There should be introduction that introduce the general background of your area, and also inadequacy or limitation from previous work and how you would cover that up. Literature review discuss previous work as well. What is the limitation? What is the benefit that you can get from the previous works? We will see that later on. And we will also talk about methodology a lot in this course. Results analysis are the area where you report the result of your analysis from your data, and then you need to discuss that and give some conclusion. We will see this in further detail. But knowing these points, knowing these components are important whenever you want to organize your notes later on. Okay, using resources. What can you do with resources that we have? Textbooks, of course, are a good place to start. Textbook can be the book that is given to you for a particular subject by your lecturer, but you cannot rely on them very heavily. You need to use them as a gateway to trace the original literature, in this case, published journal articles, because they are the primary research venue, okay, where the research is published. And you can also see the references or bibliography at the end to see what is the study that the book is referred to. There are also readers, edited collections, and monographs. And these books, yeah, they are time consuming when you want to read the whole thing. So start from introduction and the conclusion, where you can find the author's highlight on the main points. Okay, what he or she claims in the book will appear in the introduction and conclusion. After that, you can use the index, usually at the end of the books, to find certain notion or certain concepts and go to the specific pages that talk about that concept. Or you can use the table of contents to find specific section that really suits or that are relevant for your point. Next, other than books, you can read journal articles. They can be very technical, but they are succinct, they are concise. And the format may be different from what is required for your project, for your thesis later on. So for journal articles, you need to start from the abstract. Abstract is a summary of what the content of the article is about. In the abstract, it will talk about the background of the study and then the research question, potentially the method that is used, and their findings and conclusion. After that, you can go check the introduction and the conclusion to see what is the argument that is put forward by the author of the articles. If you think that this article, after reading these three sections, abstract, introduction, and conclusions, if you think they are relevant, this title, go back and read the rest of the article. Yeah, so you start from the abstract to determine whether this is something relevant, something related to your research. So students may often confuse about what is journal, what is journal article, what is article. So journal is like a book, yeah, it's like a book where it contains different writing from different authors inside it. Okay, so for instance, this is a journal. Okay, Linguistics Indonesia is the name of a journal, and inside this journal there are several writings, several titles, if you want to say, several articles that is written by a different person. Okay, so these are the articles of the journal, so that's why you say journal articles. Okay, so keep this in mind. So people write an article inside a journal. Okay, the one that you read, the abstract, the introduction, the conclusion that you read is from this article here. Okay, right. Now many resources for research are available in electronic form and in the internet. One stop that you can make online is Google Scholars. Google Scholars allows you to check the academic writing, yeah, the research outputs in the web. Most of the time it will give you the PDF of the full text of the articles or any title that you are interested in, and it will give you the abstract database as well. As I've said before, decide whether you want to read the full text after reading the abstract. And it means that reading the abstract is not the substitute for reading the whole article if you are intending to cite this research. Yeah. If you find the abstract is interesting and also it is relevant for your research, you cannot just summarize based on the abstract. You need to read the full text, okay? But if you think after reading the abstract this is not relevant, you can leave the article. But if you think it's relevant, you need to read the full text. Other important resources online is that you can check the author's personal web page if he or she has one. And usually also academics and nowadays they have academia.edu, where it's like Facebook more or less, where they share their research, their full text publication there, or you can go to researchgate.net. Okay, you need to have account to access these two web pages, and after that you can follow research keywords. Yeah, there are keywords of particular research that you can follow, and it will suggest articles or books or any writings that is related to the topic that you follow. So please do not use Wikipedia as your main reference. Wikipedia is just one stop for you to go next. Okay, don't use Wikipedia as your main sources for theory. Read the original books, read the original article. Okay, so that's getting organized and using resources, and I think I will stop here, and I will continue again in the next clip for being researchers and setting up an empirical research.